put your hands together and welcome Karthik Nagarajan. Karthik, the floor is all yours.
Thanks. MRSI is always special, especially since I started my career in market research. And thanks so much, Siddharth, both for the wonderful, extraordinarily kind words that I need to now live up to. And also for the theme, which I am assuming you were behind, along with many others. I love the theme. But before I get to that, when Mitali first called me and she told me, I said, like, great, I'll do a session which is on content, insights, easy peasy. Then she said, no, your session is a palate cleanser. So then I was like, okay, what does that mean? Saying, no, all the other sessions are about these things, which is about insights, research, and all. You wanted your session to be something else. So there's my first lifeboat gone. I have to like actually prepare then to speak. And then she said, no, make it as personal as possible. So that's the second lifeboat gone. So I hope I did take her very seriously on this. I have nothing in this session for the next 20 minutes that I do at work. But it's also slightly liberating, from that perspective, right? And like I said, I think and is a very important part of my life. Vikram, who hired me about a decade and a half before, knows that I didn't. My career has always been like A plus B minus C, all over the place, right? So and has been a very important part of my journey so far. And I thought I'll share with you 5 favorite and stories of mine, and happy to keep it as interactive as possible. And of course, not to mention, this is the post-lunch session, so yeah, let's keep it more conversational. I think that's better. I want to start here. Of course, it's something that we all talk about a lot. We just had a Gen Z quiz, so to say. I think it's a bit of a cliche to say that, hey, listen, this generation. I'm part of this generation which had made a call from an STD PCO booth and also worked on Nano Banana last week, right? I think that's not a very large group of people. And I think I'm extraordinarily privileged, like many of us are, to be able to do that. The and factor here, though, is not that. To me, I think if I look back at my journey, my first job was to actually be my first paid gig rather was a market primary research survey, for which I had to go to a PCO booth like this, call someone, make an appointment, go there, and get the survey filled, and then come back, right? Extraordinary learning experience. You learn people, you learn about time, you learn about how to present yourself, and many more things, right? Cut to today, when we are working, we are letting AI play around on server data, on brand lift studies. I think the and factor here for me is it's not from here to there, but this and that, right? To me, I think the and factor is the first principles of this, which doesn't change. The first principles of understanding what research is, understanding what how that shapes businesses, and then transposing that to the technology that we have today, right? The advantage of server data, the advantage of an AI engine, and all of that. So that's one of the biggest and stories for me. I think all of the places that I've been, it's been very fortunate to be at that particular point in time. So that's the first story I wanted to share with you. About 4 or 5 years back, I don't know for what reason, but I realized that it's probably the best idea to read multiple books at the same time. These are the 5 books I'm reading at this point. There is actually a 6th book, which is Arundhati Roy's autobiography. It's not here because that's the one I'm sharing with my wife. These are extraordinary books, and I would recommend all of them. Anirudh's book, is on the rise of multiple dynasties in the south, which you might not have heard of. Um, Vishy's autobiography is an excellent book. It's an excellent book because it's the only sports biography that I've read which is not chronologically done. You know, he takes different mind models, and each chapter is about that. So in each chapter, he goes from, you know, his first game probably to many other parts in time. Siddhartha's book on cells honestly will give you a very, very different understanding of what we are made of, literally and figuratively. And of course, Paddy Upton's book. How many of you are familiar with Paddy Upton here? Yeah, great, yeah. Extraordinary guy. Has been behind some of the biggest sporting victories, especially of Indian teams. And a fascinating book on how you handle pressure at crunch time and how you work yourself up to be a winning athlete, right? To me, the and factor here is perspective, right? And I don't see these books, and I love that the experience of reading one of these books at the same time enhances your perspective of the other book that you're reading, right? It makes it that much more vivid. And you know, over time, I've come to love that and also benefit from that. To read of the war tools and the war methods that the Chalukya dynasty used, and compare and contrast that when you're reading about how Anand prepared himself for a game, and compare and contrast that with what Paddy Upton says about what your body is capable of and how to manage your mind, and to compare that with what Siddhartha has to say about our cells, that's just each adding to the other's experience, right? If you don't try it, I'll strongly recommend that you do, and that's the big and factor for me in this story. Of course, like me, Quentin Tarantino's book here is The Palate Cleanser. And that's actually a picture of my washroom. I never thought I'll share that in an auditorium with 500 people in it. And Quentin's book is excellent. It's a great palate cleanser. It's probably the book with most number of expletives that I've ever read. Strongly recommend that as well. I'm in the business of communications. You can call me an ad man. And I'm married to an activist who's a career not-for-profit worker. Right? And you can imagine the kind of conversations we have at home. I'll tell you the number of things that we don't buy at home. We don't buy a cola brand because of how they use groundwater. Client of mine. We don't buy one FMCG brand because the CEO said that water needs to be a priced commodity. Client of mine. We don't buy a pizza brand because 1.5% of their proceeds go to pro-life, which is anti-abortion in the US. We don't buy that brand of pizza in our house. So you get the picture, right? But it's been a beautiful journey. I would like to believe that my wife's worldview has shaped me more than mine, thankfully, hers. And for me, the and factor of this story is cause and effect, right? What I learned the most by spending time with this person and learning from her life views is that it is extraordinarily difficult, but very, very important to do the right thing when nobody is watching. Probably the most difficult thing in the world, if you ask me. But I also learned that, most of us are in industries which are built on the philosophy of growth, right? We really don't have a choice in the matter. You have to be bigger than you were last year. You have to be more than you were last year. But it is possible, even within the confines of the decisions that we make, which are very limited in its scope, given that we're not really saving anybody's lives, to still make a difference, right? I think that's what this and story for me is about. Because of this conflicting, but at the same time, two sides of the same coin sort of a worldview, I have been able to discover more places where I can make a change, right? Whether it is in creating a shoot with a much lesser carbon footprint, or whether it is in creating communications which are much less judgmental and make more people happy than sad. There are so many places than we think there are where you can make a difference, right? So that's the big and story for me here. I told you I started my career as a market research executive. And of course, before that, many years before, I majored in physics. But my first real job was that of a white hat, which is another name for an ethical hacker, right? And cut to today, I spend most of my time in large sets or in production setups, where we create great communication for our clients. And to me, the simple part of this and story is left and right brain, but that will be limiting the power of this. For me, the actual and story of this is cause and effect. In a way, my creative mind is not in spite of the time I've spent in technology and in research and in data. It is because of that. I don't think it is A and B. I think it is B because of A, right? It is, I think sometimes we forget that our uniqueness comes from the multiple different places where we have spent time, and that is the end product of it all. I'll explain this through an example. Recently, we created a film for a client of ours, which is Britannia. And the brand ambassador for this film was supposed to be Gukesh, right? And Gukesh, at that point, this I want to say is about three and a half months back, was playing that exact tournament that all of us have seen memes of on social media with Carlsen in Paris. So he's not available for this promotion, right? So the film that we eventually made was, with Gukesh's consent, one where we had generated through AI both his video as well as his voice, right? And probably it was the first for us, probably it was one of the first in the country as well, where a celebrity had given consent for an AI-generated sort of a communication. What strikes me about this, and this is the and factor of the previous slide I was talking to you about, is this film was not a film that was written anyway, but made in AI because the person was not available. This film was shaped because of what we're going to shoot it with, right? So the AI is not an outside part of this journey. It is a very integral part of this journey. This film wouldn't have been written in a certain way. This film wouldn't have been visualized in a certain way if not for the tools that we used to make it. Yeah. So to me, that's the and factor of this. And I'll end with this. I think I've always wanted to. How many of you here have a tattoo or are planning to have a tattoo? Yeah. I don't have one, but I've always wanted to one. It's just that I've never been able to believe in something so permanently, that I can go ahead with it. That's a discussion for another day. But the point I'm trying to make here is, if at all I have to, it'll probably be something about balance, right? And I hope this comes across as the culmination it was intended to be for all the stories that I told you so far. We live in a time of a lot of conflict, right? Politically, there are ideas that war with each other. Philosophically, there are ideas that are at war with each other. There is, of course, the constant war in our industry in terms of creativity and data, creativity and technology, whether one is adding to it or taking away from the other. And I felt that a better way than calling them as things that complement each other is to look at them as things that power each other, right? And that's what I'm referring to as the balance here. And like in the example that I told you, that film or many other films that we make today are not where the AI and the creative part, they're not separate pieces. One is powering the other, right? And if you apply the same logic to, to politics, to philosophies, to life even, I feel there will be that sense of balance, which is not A versus B, but it is A and B. Yeah. Thank you.
What is the completion rate on an average when you're reading multiple books at a point in time?
I still didn't catch that because the audio here is very different from there. Yeah.
What is the completion rate of the books you read?
Oh, the completion rate of the books I read. Let me put it this way. Eventually, it is 100%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But eventually.
Okay.
Right?
Eventually is any time frame, anything over there?
No. I think by the time I'm done with them, I would have finished them. Yeah,
Great, Karthik.
But I think there are some books which should end in the first 10 pages.
Okay.
Because the rest of the book is basically reiterating the same point. But yeah, no, I do finish most of the books I read simultaneously.
Great, Karthik. Karthik, one thing is you started in the time when PCOs were prevalent, so we used to call, and we are living in a time where we can create ads from AI-generated personalities. So is there a basic change in humans which are observed over the time? So has there been any ants added to people?
I think my point is that the more I observe this, right, the more I observe my own decision making. I'd love to hear from you guys. Is that I feel like there is an absolute consistency in how we work as people, except of course the tools keep changing. But I'm yet to see, whether it is social media or whether it is personal computing or whether it is the World Wide Web or whether it is now AI, change the kind of mental models, the first principle mental models that we have, or people that we are, right? So at least that's my point of view. I would love to hear an opposing thought to this.
Any questions from the forum?
Karthik, you missed out the next generation in your ant, in your own household. How do you handle the and with the next generation?
How do you, sorry, say that again?
How do you handle the and with the next generation?
I think, and I'd love to again hear from you because I'm sure you have, since you asked the question, I'm sure you have a thought on that. But I feel we end up bringing up kids that we end up bringing up ourselves in our kids, I feel. And to me, it's really not an and, but more a ... from that perspective. Something that I would love to change. I would love to bring up a person who has nothing to do with me as an individual. I have 2 daughters. But I think that's our default setting, feels like.
Karthik, there is a question from the audience. Of the many roles you play, where do you face the most polarizing opposites, and how do you navigate it?
Where do I feel is the most what?
Polarizing opposites.
Of my own roles?
Yeah, of
okay.
your roles.
I think it's certainly the amount of time I spend in the washroom reading those books versus my marriage, so to say. And I think that polarizing thing is quite risky. No, I think to be serious, in the philosophy of the future of work, I see very, very polarizing thoughts, right? And the difficult perspective of that is all of them are well-intentioned, and I don't think there is a right answer to it. So to me, I think when it comes to creativity, especially when it comes to creativity, I think the polarizing thought here is one, of course, that we are in the business of people, whether in advertising, or in research. And the more you work with people, the more you get out of it. The sum is bigger than the parts. Of course, the other part of it is that because you're creative, right? Because you need that free space, because you need that freedom, you should basically work from wherever you want, right? So to me, I feel that as the most difficult polarizing thing.
Thanks, Karthik. Karthik, you started in market research and moved to the other side now. Market research has moved along, and we have added a lot of funds. We have added tech products like Neuro, EEG, and also now we added AI, synthetic data. Is there anything you think we need to add more to make us?
Is there anything
MR as an industry can add more to deliver better quality of data?
more add from an agenda perspective? Yeah. No, see, to me, I think, like I said, research is home. I started as a primary researcher, spent a decade in an analyst firm, and then came back to research and in WPP. And I think the constant thread, like I said, across all of it is insights and how you sort of create it. I feel an area where all of us struggle, especially clients in a very big way, is to the actionability of them and what you want to do with the end product of a research exercise, right? I don't think we spend enough time on that as much as we spend on fine-tuning the methods that we arrived at. This is true for creative analytics. This is true for brand studies. This is true for brand lifts, all of that, right? So to me, I think what would be really, really refreshing and very useful to people like me and to everybody else here is to be able to spend time and effort on that and give more perspectives on the actionability part alone of research.
Thanks, Karthik.
Thank you.
Yes. Can you pass the?
Advertising and content. How will the graphic equalizer play out?
I think yes, I got it. Yeah. For those of you who couldn't hear, Vikram's question was advertising and content. How does the graphic equalizer play out? I personally think that one begins where the other ends. I don't think they are the same things, and I think they complement each other really, really well. And of course, there can't be a better and story to it. It is also true that I don't think one can survive without the other, right? In a way, for many years when I was driving content as a practice for GroupM, the best way to describe what we used to do used to be that this is communication beyond advertising, right? And especially at a time today where people really don't trust ads as much as we used to. We love watching ads. We love debating it. We love getting engrossed in it. It's a great form of entertainment. But I think we don't trust them as much as we want consumers to. So that is where I feel the beginning of the content journey starts, right? That's where the content journey begins. Yeah, to me, I think that the yang to advertising's yin.
Okay, one more question from the audience, Karthik. Is there a point where we should say no to and stop putting and to in our life? Is there any situation or a scenario like that?
Stop putting?
And.
Is there a situation where and is not required? Yeah, I think it would be a very boring world, one in which and is not required. I think it's the way I look at it, from everything that we spoke about, it is the most essential conjunction it creates. I don't think there should be a world which is homogeneous. It should be an industry that is homogeneous. So I think and is an extraordinarily important ingredient to the entire story.
Thanks, Karthik.
Thank you.